Hello and welcome to a crucial update that challenges everything we thought we knew about celestial mechanics. It's the 13th of February 2026, and what I'm about to share with you is unlike anything we've seen before. 6 hours ago, at exactly 8 UTC, the object known as 3I Atlas was being tracked by NASA's Deep Space Network. It was sitting around 1.5 million kilometers in front of Earth near Lagrange point 1. Everything was stable, just as physics predicted. It was in the right spot, being monitored, and everything made sense. But now, as I speak to you, 3I Atlas has vanished from that location. It didn't just move, it's disappeared completely. It has reappeared suddenly, directly behind Earth, at a distance of 800,000 kilometers in the night's shadow. Imagine this: an object with the mass of a large comet traversing over 2 million kilometers of space in less than 6 hours. To achieve this with conventional propulsion, the object would need to be traveling at speeds exceeding 90 kilometers per second, speeds so fast they're considered relativistic. But here's where it gets impossible. No acceleration was detected. No heat signature, no sonic boom, nothing. NASA's Goldstone antenna showed it at new coordinates, and ESA's Gaia Observatory confirmed it exactly the same coordinates. The object simply ceased to exist at one point and reappeared at another. Think about that for a second. This is something I've never seen in my entire career as a theoretical physicist. From string theory to orbital dynamics, I've looked at all kinds of data, but I've never witnessed an object behave like this, like a subatomic particle. Electrons can quantum tunnel. They can disappear and reappear. But comets, asteroids, they can't do that. And yet, the telemetry from the James Webb Space Telescope, which quickly slewed to the new coordinates just 45 minutes ago, confirms it's the same object. The spectral signature matches exactly. The probability of two distinct objects with identical chemical fingerprints appearing in these exact opposite locations at the same time is less than 1 in 800 billion. Statistically, that's zero. So, we are faced with an alarming conclusion. Either our sensors across the entire globe have malfunctioned, or 3I Atlas has demonstrated a capability we are not prepared for. It's not a comet. It's not a rock. It's defying the laws of Newtonian physics. The way it positioned itself suggests intention. By moving behind Earth into our planet's electromagnetic shadow, it has effectively shielded itself from solar interference. It's gone dark to the sun, but now it's perfectly positioned to listen to Earth. This is where things get even more unsettling. Let's take a closer look at what 3I Atlas was supposed to be doing. Just 48 hours ago, this object was tracking as a typical hyperbolic comet, likely of interstellar origin, similar to Oumuamua, but much larger. Its trajectory was simple, a classic Keplerian curve. We had its path mapped out for the next 20 years. The math was solid. The orbit was predictable. It was supposed to pass Earth safely, swing around the sun, and exit our solar system. But then, at 14 UTC on the same day, everything changed. The boring math broke. At first, the scientists at NASA assumed it was a calibration error when they lost signal at the Canberra Deep Space Communication Complex in Australia. They had just received a strong radar bounce from the object's nucleus and then nothing. Total silence. The engineers were baffled. Was it a calibration error? Or perhaps the object had tumbled, presenting a smaller cross-section to our radar. That happens with comets. They tumble, they outgas. They're unpredictable. But this wasn't just a comet. This was something different. When the radar signal from Canberra went dead, the tracking request was handed off to NASA's Goldstone Solar System radar in California. Goldstone is the gold standard of radar systems. If there's a pebble floating near Mars, Goldstone can spot it. They turned their massive 70-meter dish to the last known coordinates of 3I Atlas, but they found nothing. The sector was empty for nearly 6 hours. The object had ceased to exist in our reality. It wasn't at point A, it wasn't moving to point B, it had simply vanished. This is where things take a chilling turn. At 1356 UTC, an automated survey telescope in Chile, part of the Atlas network, flagged a new object. But it wasn't looking ahead of Earth, it was looking behind us into the darkness of the anti-solar point. This new object was flagged as a near-Earth object, and it was closing in rapidly at a distance of 800,000 kilometers, about twice the distance to the Moon. When the alert went out, 3 independent agencies turned their eyes to this new intruder. And what they found is keeping the scientific community awake at night. Let's break down what happened next. First, NASA's Center for Near-Earth Object Studies ran the orbital parameters for this new object. They realized that the velocity vector matched 3I Atlas perfectly, but the location was inverted. Next, the European Space Agency's Gaia mission, known for its billion-pixel precision, also confirmed the object's position. Their spectroscopy confirmed the surface composition, a mix of organic tholins and metallic iron, which was a 100% match for 3I Atlas, the object that had just vanished 6 hours earlier. But it gets even stranger. The Amateur Astronomer Network, a global community of backyard telescopes, also picked up the object. These astronomers, using everyday telescopes linked to a central database, weren't seeing the fuzzy comet tail we would expect. Instead, they were seeing a pulsating point source of light. This wasn't just a comet. This was something else entirely. 3 independent sources, using different methodologies, reached the same conclusion. The object didn't travel through space between point A and point B. If it had, it would have had to pass within 10,000 kilometers of Earth's surface to get to its current position so quickly. Every satellite in geostationary orbit would have seen it, and Earth's gravity would have torn it apart. But none of that happened. It just disappeared from the day side of Earth and appeared on the night side. To put this in perspective, imagine you're watching a train travel from New York to Washington, D.C. You know exactly when it's going to arrive and exactly where it will be. But then the train vanishes from Philadelphia and, in the next instant, reappears in London. It didn't fly there. It didn't sail there. It just was there. That's what we're seeing with 3I Atlas. It didn't travel through the space in between. It just reappeared at a completely different location. But that's not the end of the story. The data from the last hour suggests that this wasn't just a random jump. When we analyze the location where 3I Atlas reappeared, it's mathematically precise. It's sitting exactly at the apex of Earth's magnetotail. This is a region where our planet's magnetic field stretches away from the sun, creating a stream of charged particles. By positioning itself in that location, 3I Atlas is now immersed in a stream of high-energy plasma coming from Earth. If this were a natural object, that position would be a coincidence of astronomical proportions. The odds of a random jump landing exactly in the magnetic sweet spot of our planet are 1 inch 4.7 billion. This doesn't feel like a collision course. This feels more like an insertion. And we have to ask, why is 3I Atlas hiding in the shadow? Why is it positioned in Earth's magnetotail away from the sun? Comets don't care about shadows. They don't care about magnetic fields. But 3I Atlas is acting like an observer finding a blind spot. This isn't the behavior of a comet. This is the behavior of something far more advanced, something with a purpose. And when we attempted to ping it with active radar, what we got back wasn't a simple radar echo. No, it was something else entirely. Now, let's dive into this from a theoretical perspective, because as a physicist, when I see an object defy the laws of motion, I don't jump to conclusions about magic or anything supernatural. I look for the flaws in our understanding of the universe. And right now, 3I Atlas is showing us a major flaw in classical mechanics. Classical physics, the same laws that govern everything from baseballs to planets, tell us that objects must traverse a continuous path through space-time. This is fundamental. You cannot skip the space in between. To get from point A to point B, you must pass through all the points in between. But 3I Atlas didn't do that. We have continuous coverage of the space between Earth and the Sunday. Satellites like the SOHO satellite and the Parker Solar Probe are always watching, and if a 10-kilometer wide object had physically traveled past Earth to get behind us, they would have seen it. But they saw nothing. So how do we explain this? There's only one concept in physics that allows for this kind of behavior, and it's something that belongs to the world of the very small quantum mechanics. We call this quantum tunneling. In the subatomic world, an electron can encounter a barrier that it doesn't have enough energy to cross. According to classical physics, it should bounce back, but occasionally the electron doesn't bounce back. It vanishes and reappears on the other side of the barrier. It tunnels through reality. And here's the catch. This effect doesn't work at larger scales. A rock can't tunnel. A comet can't tunnel. The probability of every single atom in a massive object tunneling to the same location is so small that it's almost impossible. Yet, here we are, on the 13th of February, 2026, and the data from ESA's Gaia telescope suggests that it happened. This forces us to consider a hypothesis that we usually reserve for science fiction. The math is demanding it. What if 3I Atlas is manipulating the very fabric of space-time? Think of it like this. Imagine space as a sheet of paper. Normally, to get from one side to the other, you'd have to crawl across the surface. That takes time and energy. But what if you could fold the paper, warp the geometry of space itself so that point A and point B were brought together? You could step across, and when you do, the paper unfolds behind you. To an observer, it would look like you vanished and reappeared. We know this is theoretically possible. It's the basis of the Alcubierre warp drive metric. But to achieve this, you need negative energy exotic matter. And those kinds of resources shouldn't exist in a comet. Unless, of course, 3I Atlas isn't a comet at all. This idea isn't just wild speculation anymore. The math and the data are starting to demand that we rethink what this object really is. Now, let me show you a specific piece of data that further supports this warp hypothesis. When 3I Atlas reappeared behind Earth, something unusual was detected. The gravimeters at the University of Strasbourg in France recorded a momentary gravitational spike. It lasted for just 0.004 seconds, but the data is unmistakable. Normally, gravity is constant. A passing comet will gently pull on Earth, much like the tide. But this was different. This was a sharp, violent tug, a gravitational snap. This is exactly the kind of effect you'd expect if a massive object suddenly punched a hole in the local space-time fabric. It's like a gravitational shock wave. The implications of this are profound. If 3I Atlas is manipulating gravity to move, then it's not just drifting through our solar system, it's actively navigating through space-time. And an object that can navigate space-time isn't just a random comet. It's a probe, a vessel, or something far more advanced than anything we could have imagined. But let's not stop there. Let's take a look at the thermal data. When you move an object at high speeds or manipulate gravity, it generates heat. That's just thermodynamics, the law that says energy must always be conserved. But infrared scans from the James Webb Space Telescope show that 3I Atlas is extremely cold. It's sitting at minus 230 degrees Celsius. That's almost absolute zero. This is physically impossible for a natural object that's this close to Earth. The ambient heat from the sun, even in Earth's shadow, should warm it up. And yet, it's maintaining this deep freeze temperature. This suggests that 3I Atlas is actively absorbing heat or using it as a power source. It's acting like a thermodynamic heat sink. Why does this matter? Because high-performance quantum computers, the kind of machines that could manipulate gravity, need to be kept near absolute zero to function. Superconducting magnets also need this kind of temperature. If you were building a probe to analyze a civilization or gather data, you'd need to keep it cold. You'd design it to shed heat aggressively. And the thermal signature of 3I Atlas is a perfect match for the profile of a massive, cryogenically cooled machine, not a comet. And then, something else happened on February 12th at 23 UTC. The object's rotation stopped. Comets rotate. They spin, but 3I Atlas, which had been spinning once every 8 hours, suddenly stopped. In just 20 minutes, it came to a complete halt. Now, one side of the object is permanently pointed at Earth. This is incredibly strange. To stop the angular momentum of a 3 billion-ton object in just 20 minutes would require an immense force. Yet, there were no thrusters, no exhaust. It just stopped. It's locked onto Earth like a sniper scope, and the radar images we've started to receive show features that look unnatural. There are geometric regularities, straight lines, right angles. Nature doesn't build in right angles, but the surface of 3I Atlas shows exactly that. 45 minutes ago, that flat, reflective surface began to emit a signal. It was almost like an antenna activating. All of this, the teleportation, the thermal anomaly, the sudden stop in rotation, was documented by 2 UTC this morning. But now, we're facing something even more astonishing. Just 60 minutes ago, the Green Bank Telescope in West Virginia, one of the most sensitive listening devices on the planet, picked up a signal spike. It wasn't just random radio noise. It wasn't the hiss of solar wind. No, it was a structured, coherent data stream, and it wasn't coming from 3I Atlas. It was being sent to it. For the last hour, an unauthorized high-power transmission has been beaming directly from Earth straight into 3I Atlas. This isn't coming from NASA, ESA, or any military agency. The signal originated from a location within the South Atlantic anomaly, a region where Earth's magnetic field is weakest. It's a spot known for satellite glitches and electronic failures. But this was no glitch. The carrier wave was modulated at 1,420 megahertz, the hydrogen line, the universal frequency that astrophysicists have long speculated would be used for first contact. Someone or something on Earth has been communicating with 3I Atlas, and 3I Atlas just responded. 10 minutes ago, the object pulsed, a burst of gravitational waves, waves without mass, that shouldn't exist without a black hole collision. But these waves weren't random. They carried a pattern. NASA's LIGO gravity wave detectors picked it up, and when they ran the pattern through decryption algorithms, they found a sequence. It wasn't math. It wasn't prime numbers. It was a mirror. The gravitational waves were mimicking Earth's own electromagnetic frequency, specifically the Schumann resonance at 7.83 Hz. This is significant because the Schumann resonance is the electromagnetic heartbeat of Earth. 3I, Atlas has synchronized itself with Earth's biorhythm. It's not just observing us anymore, it's connecting with us. If this is a natural event, it is the greatest coincidence in the history of the universe. But if it's not, then we've just witnessed the first real connection with an extraterrestrial intelligence. The scientific community is panicking. Within minutes of the handshake, the live data feeds from the Green Bank telescope were cut. The screen went black, and the official excuse was maintenance. But we know better. You don't take the world's most sensitive listening device offline during an alien event. The authorities cut the feed because they saw something they didn't want us to see. Let's review what we know with certainty. 3I, Atlas moved from the day side to the night side of Earth in just 6 hours, violating every known law of orbital mechanics. It is now geostationary, tidally locked, and pointing a geometric surface directly at us. It exchanged a coherent signal with an unknown source inside the South Atlantic anomaly. The public data was cut shortly after. These aren't theories. These are documented observations from the 13th of February 2026. But one question still remains unanswered. Why did 3 Atlas choose the shadow? If this were a diplomatic visit, you'd expect it to land in the light, announce its presence. But instead, 3I, Atlas chose to hide in the darkness, in the one place where it can see everything we do. The magnetotail is a shield, but it's also a perfect blind spot. It's the ideal location to observe us without being observed. It's also a perfect spot to deploy something without interference. As you watch this, the Hubble Space Telescope has been retasked. It's no longer looking at distant galaxies. It's staring directly at the dark patch behind Earth. Every hour that passes brings us closer to the next phase of this handshake. If 3I, Atlas, is a probe, its scan is complete. If it's a vessel, it has reached its destination. The signal from the South Atlantic anomaly is still active. The gravitational ripples are still pulsing at 7.83 Hz. The connection is open, and the silence is deafening. Whatever 3I, Atlas is preparing to do next, it's about to reveal itself. If you want to stay informed as we witness this unprecedented event, subscribe now and stay tuned for updates. The future of humanity might just be unfolding before our very eyes.